नाउ लेट अस से नेक्स्ट वन क्लासिफिकेशन. यामध्ये आणखीन एक पुढचा पॉइंट आपण स्टडी करतोय. व्हेरी इंपॉर्टंट पॉइंट बिलोंग्स टू द इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ क्रोमॅटोग्राफिक क्लासिफिकेशन. Actually, chromatographic techniques are classified based on two different modes. First one is the forces operating for the separation. Thus, depending upon the force operating for the separation, that methods are classified into three types. First one is the partition chromatography. Actually, paper chromatography is example of partition, and in this chromatographic technique, both the phases, means stationary as well as mobile phase, are the liquid, and components from the mixture are separated due to difference in their solubility in stationary and mobile phase, and this is called partition chromatography. Now let us see second type, adsorption chromatography. Example is TLC किंवा याला आपण thin layer chromatography असंही म्हणतो आहोत. And here this is actually a glass plate which having thin layer of adsorbent. Now what is meant by adsorbent? Adsorbent means a substance which having ability to adsorb another component on its surface. Now here suppose that glass plate is coated with adsorbent, and then similarly that mixture is spotted just like paper chromatography. Then that glass plate is kept in a organic solvent. That organic solvent moves in upward direction. Then components from the mixture, they are separated on that glass plate. Why they are separated? Here that stationary phase is adsorbent. Stationary phase is adsorbent. Now components from the mixture having different adsorption ability. Components from the mixture having different adsorption ability for the stationary phase. One component having more adsorption ability, it adsorbs more easily, and another component which having less adsorption ability, it adsorbs less easily at the upper part. ज्याची adsorption ability कमी असते तो उशिरा adsorb होतो at the upper part, while the component which having more adsorption ability, it adsorb on that stationary phase more easily at the lower part, and thus two components from the mixture get separated, and we get two spots on the TLC plate, and this is the adsorption chromatography. In adsorption chromatography, components from the mixture are separated due to adsorption abilities, different adsorption ability. In partition chromatography, why the components are separated? Due to difference in their solubility. Means force operating for the separation is the solubility. Here force operating for the separation is the adsorption ability. Now let us see third one. Next type यामधला आपण बघूया, and next one is the ion exchange chromatography. Now what is the ion exchange chromatography? Actually in this chromatography, ion exchange resin is used. Actually this is a column, just see in figure, this is a column and which having ion exchange resin. Okay, I can explain with the help of reaction also. And suppose that ion exchange resin having hydrogen ion as a exchangeable. याच्यामध्ये या रेजिन मध्ये हायड्रोजन आयन असतात which can be exchanged with another ion. Okay, now suppose there is a mixture of two different ion. One is the sodium and second is the calcium. दोन आयनचं मिक्सचर आपण या रेजिन मधून पास केलं. दिस इज द रेजिन, आणि यामधून हे ग्रीन कलर जो दिसतोय तुम्हाला, या ग्रीन कलर म्हणजे दोन आयनचं मिक्सचर आहे. सपोज Na+ and Ca+, आणि आपलं एम काय आहे? टू सेपरेट दॅट Na+ and Ca+. Therefore that mixture is passed through the resin. Okay, through the resin. Now what happens here? That sodium plus and calcium plus, they having different ion exchange ability. Na+ can be easily exchanged for the hydrogen ion, and thus that hydrogens are exchanged by sodium, and यामधला हायड्रोजन आयन हा Na+ आयन एक्सचेंज होतो, मग शिल्लक काय असेल H+ आणि Ca+, अँड दस दॅट टू आयन्स गेट सेपरेटेड. म्हणजे यामध्ये असणारे दोन्ही आयन्सचं सेपरेशन होतं. सपोज वन इज सोडियम, सेकंड इज द हायड्रोजन एक्सेट्रा, अँड दस द डिफरंट आयन हॅव्हिंग डिफरंट आयन एक्सचेंज ॲबिलिटी अँड देअरफोर दे कॅन बी इझिली गेट सेपरेटेड. आणि म्हणून त्यांचं इझिली सेपरेशन होतं. दिस इज द फर्स्ट मोड फॉर द क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ chromatographic method. In partition, solubility is the force operating. In adsorption, adsorption ability is the force operating. While in ion exchange chromatography, ion exchange ability is the force operating for the separation. Okay, this is the first mode. Now, in the second mode, the techniques are classified based on the nature of stationary and mobile phase. Depending upon the nature of stationary and mobile phase, that techniques are classified into two types. One is the gas chromatography. First one is the gas chromatography, and second is the liquid chromatography. Means depending upon the nature of mobile phase. If mobile phase is the gas, then it is called gas chromatography, and if mobile phase is liquid, then it is called liquid chromatography, किंवा शॉर्ट मध्ये याला आपण LC असं म्हणतो, while gas chromatography in short GC. And thus depending upon the nature of mobile phase, mainly the techniques are classified into two types. One is the gas chromatography and second is the liquid chromatography. Now this gas chromatography again is sub-classified into two types. One is called GSC, means gas solid chromatography. Here mobile phase is gas, no doubt, but if stationary phase is solid, then it is called gas solid chromatography. Mobile phase is gas and stationary phase is solid, then it is gas solid chromatography. And second one is the gas liquid chromatography. In gas chromatography, if stationary phase is liquid, then it is called GLC, gas liquid chromatography. Okay, this is just the sub classification of gas chromatography. Now let us see second one, liquid chromatography, किंवा आपण त्याला LC असं म्हणतो. It is classified into two types. One is the column and second is the planar. One is the column. Means suppose chromatographic separation is carried out in the form of column, then it is called column chromatography. And suppose chromatographic separations are carried out on the plane surface, on the plane sheet, just like filter paper, glass plate, then it is called planar chromatography. If we are using plain sheet, then it is called planar chromatography, and if we are using column, then it is called column chromatography. These are the two types of the liquid chromatography. Here mobile phase is always liquid. In this case, mobile phase is always liquid. Okay, now let us see that column chromatography is further sub-classified into four types. One is the LSC, liquid solid chromatography. Here stationary phase is solid. Okay, we are using column and stationary phase is solid and mobile phase is liquid. Then it is called liquid solid chromatography. Then second type, again we are using column and both the phases are liquid. Then it is called LLC, liquid chromatography. Okay, this is the second subtype. Then third one is the HPLC. This is a modern technique. And it is high performance liquid chromatography, and generally it is used in various pharmaceutical industries, petrochemical industries, in quality control department. It is very advanced technique, HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography. And then last one is the IEC, ion exchange chromatography, again example of column chromatography, ion exchange chromatography. These are the four subtypes of the column chromatography. Okay, now let us see planar, second type. Actually, here we are carrying out the chromatographic separation on a plain sheet. Therefore, it is planar chromatography. Okay, it is again sub-classified into two types. One is the paper chromatography. Suppose there is a use of filter paper, then it is called paper chromatography. Already we have carried out that technique at BSc 1 level. And second is the TLC, thin layer chromatography. Actually, in a thin layer, a thin layer of adsorbent is made on the glass plate. A thin layer of adsorbent is made on the glass plate, and that glass plates are used for the chromatographic separation, therefore called as the thin layer chromatography. This is the second type of planar chromatography. This is just about the classification, second mode for the classification of chromatographic method, and this mode totally depends upon the nature of stationary and mobile phase. What is the stationary phase and what is the mobile phase? On that basis, chromatographic techniques are classified into number of types. Suppose there is a gaseous mobile phase, then it is called gas chromatography. And if it liquid is mobile phase, then it is liquid chromatography, LC. Gas chromatography again subclassified into two types, GSC, gas solid chromatography, and GLC, gas liquid chromatography. Then liquid chromatography classified into two types, column and planar. Actually, if separations are carried out in the form of column, then it is column, and the separations are carried out in the form of plain sheet, then it is called planar chromatography. Column is again subclassified into four types, liquid solid chromatography, liquid liquid chromatography, HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography, and ion exchange chromatography. While planar is again classified into two types. One is the paper chromatography. There is use of filter paper, and second is the TLC, thin layer chromatography. Okay, this is just about the classification of different chromatographic technique. We have studied how that chromatographic methods are classified. Actually, in the introduction, we have first discussed what is meant by chromatography, then history. Actually, it was first used by scientist Michael Sweet in 1906 for the separation of plant pigment. Then just a definition for the chromatography. Then general principle. This is very important. General principle for the chromatography. And then also about the classification of chromatography based on two different modes.